Hi guys, it's vf.miniatures Warhammer Tactics series. So today we're gonna talk about the new awesome rule called Armour of Contempt from the recently updated Balance Dataslate. The problem of survivability for basic power armored units was obvious for a long time now, and thankfully Games Workshop have caught up with it and decided to address this issue. In this video we'll talk about the big winners with this rule and discuss our beloved Storm Shield. Is it still great or is it not anymore? So without further ado, let's dive right in. So what does this rule do, you might ask? Well, basically it's a -1 AP for all attacks that target power armor. Unless the targeted unit has a Storm Shield or its analog like the Combat Shield, the Relic Shield or Sacrosanct Shield, or is a Dread Knight model. They decided that Dread Knights would probably be way too much with what actually boils down to a 1-up save. And as is usually the case with such rules, it doesn't stack with any other rules that affect the armor penetration characteristic, reduce it or worsen it. So in practice, the changes to the survivability of the units may be very extreme. For example, the AP4 weapon is no longer a no-save situation for a 3+ save model like a tank or a Space Marine. And believe me, there is a very big difference between taking 3 Dark Lance shots to the chest of a Dreadnought and having no save at all, or having a chance to roll a single 6 to block a D3+3 damage. And you have a 50% chance to roll a 6 on 3 dice and block one of those shots. And sometimes you can even roll 2, or maybe if you are very lucky, 3 6s. It's very rare and usually doesn't happen, but it may happen in case when you got a save, which is impossible when you have no save at all. For base 2-up save models like Terminators, for example, the AP1 is no longer an AP at all, and weapons like chainswords with their AP1, choppers of the orcs, hormigons and a lot of stuff that has AP1 in the game is no longer a problem for base 2-up save models and is much less of a problem for 3+ save Marines. And sisters for that matter. AP3 weapons like Hellforged swords on the Demon Princes, the Dreadnought fists, the Power swords, and a whole bunch of stuff like Shuriken shot that rolled a 6 to wound. The weapons that were historically very good at killing Space Marines have doubled now. The chance to save against them have doubled now from 16.7% to 33% chance of saving. So for models that don't have an invulnerable save, like most of the Space Marine vehicles, they don't have an invulnerable save. It's an incredible buff because you are gonna have a chance to save against AP4 weapons, a much better chance to save against AP3, and so on and so forth up to AP1. So if this rule is so awesome, you may ask, why do we still need these Storm Shields? Maybe we just need to get rid of them and give all our Vanguard Vats the double lightning claws and make them uber killy. Well, actually no. We still need the 4-up invulnerable save because a basic Space Marine still needs extra protection against AP3 and AP4. It's much better to be saving on a 4-up than a 5-up, and especially on a 4-up against a 6-up. So as we've learned, a jump from a 6-up save to a 5-up save is a doubling of a chance to save, whereas a jump from a 5-up to a 4-up is more like a 50% increase, but still a very important difference, having a 50% chance to save versus a 33% chance. So, for our units that have the Storm Shields, like the Vanguard Vats and the Blade Guard Vats, the units that we want to keep alive, they will actually be targeted with those AP3 and AP4 attacks pretty regularly, and that's why we need that 4-up invulnerable anyways. And also I should remind everyone, this is not like we get a +1 to our saving throws. We worsen the AP characteristic of the weapons that target us, so we still need that base 2-up save for AP0 attacks, which there are a lot of AP0 attacks actually. For example, the all-popular Volkite Culverins on the Contempt Dreadnoughts, they are AP0. And if you just get rid of your Storm Shields on the Vanguard Vats, you will be rolling 3s instead of 2s against those weapons, which are very good at killing your Marines. That's why I don't recommend to get rid of Storm Shields on these units that have a base 3+ save. The Space Marine Captain is probably one of the models that you actually don't want to take with a Storm Shield now, because it only grants them the 2+ save, which is not that important on a character, but you're gonna save the 10 points which you can use elsewhere. In case of a base 2-up save, like on Terminators, the situation is slightly different, because only AP4 weapons can actually get them down to their 5-up invulnerable save. Against everything else, they'll be saving on a 4-up or better. And is it worth paying that extra 5 points compared to a 38-point Terminator with a Chain Fist and a Stormbolter, and losing all the shooting just to get that 4-up invulnerable save, is a very good question. I'd say the answer is probably in the Thunder Hammer, in the weapon itself. The Chain Fist is a great weapon, but obviously it has D3 damage and only damage 3 against vehicles. And for some targets, like if you're targeting Custodes, for example, it's very important to have that straight 3 damage on your hammers. So yeah, it's one of these questions that you'll probably need to answer yourself, considering the tactics and uses that you're gonna have for these Terminators in your list. But one thing is for sure, the times when we only saw the Thunderhammer Stormshield Terminators on the tables are gone. So who are the biggest winners for this Armor of Contempt rule? Obviously the guys that don't have Storm Shields at all and that have a good armor save, like Thousand Suns and Death Guard, for example. The Scarabacol Terminators now boast a 1-up save, which makes them very, very tanky. And the Rubric Marines are also much more protected now, especially against AP1 and AP2. With all this dust, they both are nigh impervious to damage 1 attacks. Just imagine, the Scarabacol Terminator will now have a 0-up save against the damage 1 attack. This means that they are gonna save on 3s against AP3 weapons and on 4s against AP4 weapons with damage 1. Obviously, the weapons with such a high IP characteristic usually have damage 2 or more, but I should remind you that we have this awesome strat in the Thousand Suns Codex called Unwavering Phalanx, and it means that we can subtract 1 from the damage roll for the ranged attacks that target our Terminators. So if our Terminators are being shot with damage 2 weapons, it's a very bad day for the person that paid a lot of points for those autocannon style shots. The Death Guard, Blightlord and Deshral Terminators were notoriously hard to kill historically, and now they're even that much harder to get rid of. And now you need an AP3 attack to put them back on their 4-up invulnerable save, which is obviously something that not everyone has in their army. For example, I've looked at my own competitive list and I saw a lot of AP2 attacks there, and those attacks used to put the Death Guard Terminators on their 4-up invulnerable save, and there is a very big difference between saving on a 4-up and saving on a 3-up. That's why the Games Workshop have got rid of most of the 3+ invulnerable save, because they are too effective. So kudos for the Death Guard, and we move on to the Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines. Obviously, the Space Marine Terminators that don't have the Storm Shields and all the Chaos Space Marine Terminators, they are very big winners with this new rule. And the 1-up save offers huge additional protection against everything that's not AP4. So a dual Lightning Claw Terminator for 33 points is a total steal. And any 3+ Dreadnoughts, tanks and any Marines for that matter that have power armor will be much more protected now. My beloved Eliminators will now have a 4-up save against AP4 weapons and a 3-up save against AP3 weapons and a 2-up save against anything else. So they are much better now, and I think that Eliminators are one of the big winners in the Space Marine Codex. Of course, the Chaos Space Marine Terminators that only have 2 wounds for now, they can't benefit from this rule fully, but we are waiting for their new codex, and once it's dropped, they will be the full beneficiaries of this wonderful rule. For Sisters, it's Paragon Warsuits, Morven Val and Celestine, so the 3 units that have the base 2-up save in the codex, they all get a very, very big buff, especially the Paragon Warsuits with their base 1-up save. Now they are very, very tanky and have virtually a 5-up invulnerable save, because There are not a lot of things in the game that are more than AP4. With the recent price decreases, it's even more apparent that the Paragons are great units to use in the Sisters army. And mostly the same as with Space Marines applies to the Adepta Sororitas tanks and Sisters. The only difference being that they already had the 6-up invulnerable save, so they had the chance to save against AP4 like multi-melters and etc. But now they have a better chance of saving against, for example, the AP3 weapons that are also very prevalent in the anti-tank world. With the Grey Knights, the biggest winner is probably the Strike Squad, because these guys, they need all the help they can get, because they only have the 3+ save, and the best that you can do for them is turn on the Tide of Shadows, and with the Tide of Shadows now they get a 1-up save, so an actual 5-up in 1 against AP4 and a 4-up save against AP3, which is not bad actually. So now their survivability is on a totally different level here. But what I'm actually happy about is that it opens up a possibility for use of Terminators in the Grey Knights units, because previously they were completely outshined by the 3+ guys and the Nemesis Dreadknights, but now when the Terminators all basically have a 1-up save, and this especially is relevant for the Paladins, because Paladins have access to a wonderful psychic power called Armored Resilience that gets them an extra +1 save. So with the Armored Resilience, the Paladins can get a permanent 0-up save, which is incredible. So there is virtually no use to cast Sanctuary on them, because nothing will get past their 0-up save further than a 4-up, which is what Sanctuary actually does, is a 4-up invulnerable save. That's great because it saves you the cast for something else, like, say, the Strike Squads. And obviously with the Tide of Shadows, the Paladins can actually get to a negative 1-up save, which is, well, it sounds crazy, and it is crazy. Because it's like a 3-up invulnerable save, but better, because you'll be saving on a 3-up against AP4, and against anything else, you'll be saving on a 2-up save. Obviously, the cover doesn't work in combat, so in combat you will only be able to get to a 0-up save, which is not that bad actually. So now I'm thinking about running about 25 Terminators in a battalion and using like 3 Dreadknights to support them, and a Nemesis Dreadknight Grandmaster, and maybe a Librarian. So what do you think about that list? Write down in the comments if you are interested in Grey Knights. So as you can see, I'm very happy about this new Armor of Contempt rule, and I'm very glad that the Power Armor got the love that it deserved, and now the Space Marines wear a real set of armor, not just like a shiny trinket. They should be very protected and should feel that it's hard to kill them with the low AP weapons, and even with high AP weapons, then they should have at least a small chance of saving themselves. So what do you think about this new rule? Write down in the comments, I'm very interested to know your opinion, and thank you for watching. I hope this video was useful for you. See you later, guys.